Hi, welcome back folks. This is part 7, I believe, if math serves me. It doesn't always. Um, Still continuing from the car chapter. I died at the end of the last video, so I just took it more carefully this time. You may notice that sometimes the Combine drop small little health vials. That's usually get that when you've got, sort of flashing health. So when you've got like 10 or 20 health left, they tend to drop vials. I'm still trying to get a camera for some of my other stuff. If anyone's interested in that, I'm hoping someone is, and even if they're not, then I guess it would be just for fun, really. I'm going to start going through and doing some of my achievement guides as well shortly. Those will be up, fairly certain, fairly soon even. I'll start with, for some reason this gets stuck and I try and get it to get free. Doesn't seem to work too well. Right until it decides to fly at me out of nowhere. But yeah, no, I shall be getting some achievement guide stuff up shortly. I'll start with Half-Life 2 just because it's most familiar with that. Although I have got, I've done a large number of games, I believe. According to my profile, I've done, I think it's about 125 so far. So I've definitely got my fair share of games to go through. I should start with some of the newer ones as opposed to going for some old games because most people have probably got those by now. There's a load of games I can do. I'll have a look and see what's particularly difficult for some people and hopefully help some guys with that. This is going to be another long and boring video, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. After this section, it starts to pick up again after the Vortigaunt camp. Once you've got past sand traps, you've got to fight another boss, or a mini boss, if you want to call it that. You got to fight the giant antlion guardian. And then after that, once you've been through another boring tutorial, you do get, it does start to pick up. You invade Nova Prospect, and then it starts to get good after that. So hopefully it'll be more interesting then. But I do try to get through the boring sections as quickly as possible. In hindsight, this probably wasn't the best choice for recording, just because of the sections that do tend to be fairly boring. Those little things there are called roller mines. They tend to stick onto your car and just electrocute your car. Make your car go out of control, and if you're on foot, then they just electrocute you. The only way to really destroy them is to chuck them into the water. That'll get rid of them for you. Now, there's a nice little trick up here in a second, which I shall show you. This is also the final part of me making a mistake with the audio, so after this it'll be me in gameplay talking at once again. And I don't make any more mistakes. Now there's a little trick here, if some people might not be aware of, is that what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go through the village, follow the cable around and disable the power. Of course, if you do that, then all the Combine come out and start attacking you and shooting you. But what you can do is you can get the gravity gun, and if you just duck and sort of push it in an upwards motion, then eventually it will just pop through like that. There you go. And then all you need to do is just get in your car and drive off, and then the Combine come out and they're too late, so you can just drive off without them. Now this section is fairly annoying. You just have to go all along the train tracks to the Combine outpost, disable the power, and come all the way back again. That takes quite a while, just because you've got to do it on foot, and there's a bit of platforming and stuff. But yeah, this is a fairly lengthy section. This is the train track that leads directly to Nova Prospect, which is the prison. The Combine sort of use it as a torture centre almost. Yeah, doing the audio separate to the video has not been that great for me, to be honest. It's definitely not been a success. I'm not sure how some people managed to make it for crying out loud. I don't know how some people managed to make it a success, because personally it's you know, I've been sitting here and all I can do for entertainment is drink water. It's probably the most amount of water I've drunk ever. And it's also, I also find it slightly difficult to talk about. When I'm playing, the speaking comes a little bit more naturally to me. At least I feel it does. So I was just taking my time again, because whenever I tend to rush, I seem to get killed. The shotgun guys are the worst. I really can't be dealing with those guys. Now I try to be clever and I try and get a grenade in through the door, but it seems that one bounced off the guy's head. I finally got one in, but unfortunately it didn't do any damage to anybody somehow. Now then, you just got to disable the power, and then you can. And now I just need to return. Of course, they take notice of that and decide to send another helicopter. Not another helicopter, another dropship, gunship. One of the synth ones. And if you're unaware, the synth gunships, they're like a mixture of organic and machine. They were an alien race that the Combine have conquered and taken over. That seems to be the Combine's main thing. They seem to be sort of just encompass other races. You see what they do to the humans at the end of sort of this game, and more so at episode 1. They're called stalkers, and basically what they do is they chop your legs off, weld a mask to your face, and then you're forced to work on whatever project they want you to work on. It's not a pleasant experience, I'd imagine. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have all my body parts still, but I can't imagine losing a leg, or both of your legs, is all that pleasant. So I run out of rockets, and I have to go and try and get some more. Uh, Unfortunately, the gunship does kind of get me quite a lot here. The amount of hits a gunship can take is dependent on the difficulty. I think it's 3 if it's on easy, 5 if it's on normal, and 7 if it's on hard. The only real difficulties with the only changes in difficulty is how much damage the enemies give and how much damage you give. You take more damage on the harder difficulties. They didn't really change anything here. You know, some games have the AI is smarter on harder difficulties. It's mostly Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid does that a fair bit. I mean, doing just enemies take more damage and you deal less damage. That's sort of kind of the laziest sort of difficulty setting you can do, really. Laziest thing you can do to change a difficulty. Yeah, these gunships do take a lot of damage on the higher difficulties. Not to mention the rocket sometimes goes out of control and decides not to hit the guy. So we're just going back now. Back to the car, the little buggy. Now, usually I can jump on top of the poison zombie's head and jump up onto the cliff. Unfortunately, I didn't do it straight away, and now the antlions are coming, so I had to just leave that. I just try and get back to my buggy as soon as possible. There's a couple of guys I missed, and I almost die. So then I decided to look for some supplies. And at the time, I didn't think the AI would be smart enough to find out where I'd gone. Unfortunately, I was wrong about that. They decided to come in anyway. And then at the time, I thought it was a good idea to hide behind the door. Unfortunately, I get stuck behind the door, and I'm unable to close the door at all. So I have to just use some extra help to get out. I don't make a habit of using console commands, and I definitely won't during playthroughs. But unless you wanted to watch that entire section all over again, I thought it'd be best just to just get out. Just use the cheats and get out. I'd also like to thank the first 4 subscribers I've got, or 5 or 6 depending on when this video goes up. Everyone's got to start somewhere, and you guys are going to be my first few. You know, I've had a look at, there seems to be a lot of up and coming channels recently. Some people got 200 subscribers, some have got 1,000 or 2,000. And hopefully one day I can get there and above. Now I was reversing along that track just because there's a train that comes and I needed to make a quick getaway. And this is the train coming back from No Prospect, so it's dropped off all its passengers. As you can see, there's nothing there. And we're free to move on. But yeah, one day I hope to become at least, you know, semi-popular. If I get 10,000, I know that's quite a bit of a leap from having 4 to 10,000, but maybe one day I can get there and then I can actually make some. I can, you know, bring new content and new games as opposed to waiting for a while before I can actually even afford them, stuff like that. Anyway, this is come up to the Sand Traps chapter, or this is the Sand Traps chapter. So we will be leaving the buggy shortly. Now this little tunnel, it always reminds me of that one scene in 28 Days Later, the one with the taxi when they go through that little tunnel and pile up. There's a pile up in the tunnel. I don't know if Valve saw that and thought that was a good idea, or they just had that idea from the start. It seems more likely that they like that scene. That's what I believe anyway. I'm not 100% on that. It could just be a coincidence. But there's if you haven't seen 28 Days Later, I recommend checking that out. It's a zombie horror film set in London. It's a decent film. I believe it's directed by Danny Boyle. I believe. I'm not a massive film guy, so I'm not 100%, but I believe that's who it's directed by. He also did Train Spotting, I believe. That's a really weird film set in Scotland. It's about drugs and rock and roll and stuff. That's an odd film to say the least. So if you like your weird films. For some reason this little wooden thing gets stuck under my wheel and it won't break. I'll get through of it eventually. It's desperately trying to hang on and I still can't get rid of it, and then eventually it decides to leave. It doesn't want to go any further. I apologise if you hear any sort of car engines or motorbikes. I live in a fairly noisy area, and honestly, it's a miracle that I've managed to make my vocal. When I had my voice recorded, it's a surprise that I've even managed to, make it somewhat fairly quiet. I don't use anything. I can't afford any of that. The professional stuff that people use when they've got 200,000 subs or whatever. I can't afford that at the moment. So I'm basically making these videos with duct tape. Just scavenging whatever I can to make these videos. Still trying to get a camera, so I'm I will have other stuff as opposed to just Let's Plays, because everybody's doing Let's Plays now, and it's kind of, unless you've got a ton of subscribers, there's not much. And there's so many people doing Let's Plays that it's kind of just people will just watch whoever they're sub to. There's like 4 or 5 popular guys that are doing it, and then there's like a couple of smaller YouTube channels that are just, they've got their like 50 subs or whatever. But yeah, I'll hopefully be bringing more content than just this. I plan to do like a wide variety of stuff, see what people enjoy, what I enjoy. You know, what gets views, what people like, if people have suggestions or whatever. But yeah, it's I'm sort of just dabbling at the moment, just seeing what's popular, seeing what's not. That's one of the great things about the gravity gun. You can use it as a grenade launcher. Anyway, so I'll just get the batteries again and stick them in. Yeah, this has just come up to the lighthouse fight now, so there's going to be that, and that shall be over. That will be the end of the vehicle section, and the next video will be sort of the sand traps and the antline tutorial. That's going to be another semi-boring part, but I believe that's only going to be like 10 minutes or so maybe, so it won't be that one won't be the whole video. And then we get to prospect, and that's when you get the big firefight.
There's a secret path along the cliffside, but no one's going anywhere until we fight off this attack. Having you here to fight alongside us is going to make a big difference for morale. Oh, crap. Here come the dropships.
Now, these dropships, for some reason, the people take forever to come out, so you can just shoot them as they come out single file. Fine, you can actually hit them. Usually with a shotgun. I mean, I'll do a terrible job there, but you get the
You'll have to go on foot from here. There's a secret
you get the shotgun, and you can just shoot them as they come out single file, and usually they go down in one hit. The dropships have got little turrets on them, but as long as you hide, as soon as they decide to land, they can't shoot you anymore for some reason. I mean, it seems like Valve tried to stop people from doing what I'm about to do, but for some reason the gun gets disabled as soon as they land, so you can just wait until they come out and just pop them off one by one, and you get 3 or 4 dropships come down. You can do that too.
Dropship! Coming in over the road! Sorry.
Yeah, just sneak around the back of them. Wait for it to land. And then just do the same thing over again. Just saves a lot of time, and a lot of time as opposed to spending ages trying to have a big firefight with them all. it's semi hard to decide what to do with this channel, my channel, because everything's been done already before. I mean, there's so many people doing top 10 lists. They're all already done. Gameplay videos people have already done. Reviews they've already done. You know, it's difficult getting started. Maybe I'll collaborate with some other guys that have barely started. So, you know, if you've only got, 50 subs or 100 subs and you want to message me, then feel free. Try and sort something out. Anyway, so now that a gunship has arrived, we've got to fight that off. Fight that off inside the lighthouse, and you could technically fire rockets from those small windows, but it's a really limited view, and it'd be fairly hard to see what you're doing or where he's coming from. It's a lot more protection, obviously, from those tiny windows. But you know, it's not the best place. So there's not really much view. I tried there for a second. It takes a while for the guy to notice the rocket as well, unfortunately. Video's going a little bit jittery here. I'm not sure if that's going to come through on YouTube. I apologise if it does. Might just be my PC. In fact, it's going really jittery.
This way, Dr. Freeman. We'll take the cliff path before another gunship finds us.
Anyway, so we're just going through the lighthouse.
All right, Dr. Freeman. Before another one comes. Right along there. And watch your step.
There, I was just trying to find out where the line is. Usually you can see the difference in the wall, but I couldn't find it there. And you managed to escape just as more Combine arrived. And there they are, taking your buggy as well. I don't know what they're going to do with that, I don't really know. I mean, it's fairly pointless now. The ant line.
You there! Stop where you are! Stay on the rocks! Don't step on the sand! It makes the ant lions crazy! Laszlo, don't move! No. Help! Dear God! Poor Laszlo! The finest mind of his generation! To come to such an end. We were heading for the Vortigaunt camp, hoping to pick up some bug baits of these damn things and leave us alone. But without Laszlo, what's the point? I know you tried to help. I'll stay with him a while. There's something I have to do. Go ahead. I hope you have better luck than
So
we had.
there he says he's got stuff to do. It's never really explained if that's his brother or they're just, or he's a butt pirate. So I don't know if what he means when he's I've got to do something. He tells you to leave, and then he says he's got to do something. So I'm not sure what that is exactly. It's not really elaborated on. But this is the beginning of the area where you're not allowed to touch any of the sand, and you have to jump on all sorts of obstacles and stuff to get through the level. I apologise. At the time, I thought this is the very last one. At the time, I thought I was still talking. I thought my voice was actually being recorded whilst I played. So I'm kind of just jumping on the rocks and stuff. And there's not much. There's not really much else going on at this point. So you're free to leave if you've managed to make it this far. Yeah, that's basically it really. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it as always, and I shall see you next time. Any feedback, as usual, any feedback, any comments, they're all welcome. If they're positive or negative, any feedback at all is good. And I appreciate it. Thanks for watching.